welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 368, Pancake Baker Man. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Ashley Soden, soon to be joined by Anthony Fitzpatrick. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Didn't get much sleep last night, as people on Twitter will know, because as we'll get on to in about 5-ish minutes, I had some important roster news to celebrate. But yeah, it's, after finally, getting the Kansas City game off my chest, off my head, not thinking about that anymore. Time to move on to Monday Night Football now, especially since, as I correctly predicted with my dress on Monday, we're in the preferred uniform, people. We're in the black and blues, as you can see.
Yeah, that's going to be really fun. We are going to talk injuries, roster moves, and then we're going to get into the Bucks preview before talking about the rest of the Week 7 slate. The Lions, of course, going into a bye after this game, so important to get a good result and then roll into the Week 8 bye and get healthy. But first, please do come and join our Discord channel. Great place to chat to us all week long and converse with a fabulous community that we have built. I'm going to put a link in the live chat when Discord decides it's going to work, which is not at this particular moment in time. So I'll do that after all of this spiel. College Football Podcast was yesterday, looking back at last weekend's slate. It was a really interesting lot of games in there, including Penn State falling again, James Franklin being fired, and also looking ahead to the Week 8 slate. Do please like this episode, sub to the podcast. You guys know what to do by now. Right. Injuries. Rookie defensive end Ahmed Hassanin, who of course is technically an unrestricted free agent at this moment in time. He was recently videoed working out, showing he's along the path to recovery from his injury, and he may be eligible to sign soon with a team of his choice. Probably not Lions, because they have to wait for another 3 weeks after everyone else does. He was waived with an injury designation at the end of preseason. Rookie offensive lineman Miles Frazier has been spotted working with trainers to the side at open practice. Defensive lineman DJ Reader was also working with trainers to the side of practice, suggesting he got a small injury against Kansas City. And then finally on injuries, Taylor Decker and Zach Cunningham spotted during the open part of practice, suggesting they are closer to return from their long-term injuries. Ash, big names in there, 2 rookies who we had high hopes for and we haven't seen at all in the regular season. And then 3 people, and I mean Zach Cunningham maybe not as much as the other 2, but still he's made some big plays so far this season. Mm-hmm. All 3 of them would be really good guys to have playing on Monday against a really important team. So your thoughts on all those injuries?
Yeah, obviously Decker is the main one. Part of me hopes we don't play him just to give him that extra week of rest so he's nice and healthy for the after the bye, for that sort of time when we need him. We don't need him technically this week because it's an important game, but it's not like the be and all end all. The be and end all for us is the end of December to February, so we need to keep him healthy from then. But at least, he's practicing now, even if it is a kind of thing like we had William last week, where he's practicing all week and he still doesn't play. Having Cunningham back will be nice, partly because, as you say, he's made some good plays for us before. He's also very important on our special teams. And with the roster logjam that's probably coming near the end of this week in terms of we need to free up a roster spot, it could mean that Ty Summers, who I know the team loved and would love to probably sign back to the practice squad if we can, he might be, his roster spot might be at threat. DJ Reader's we'll go into in a minute. He has popped up on the injury report with a thing, but it's also nice to hear about the rookies because, Frazier, I know right now our issues at the tackle position. He has had some experience there in college, but he's mostly an interior offensive lineman. Nice to at least see that he's kind of working his way back, and then we have another reserve there in case we need it, because as people listening to the DLP last night will know, it's usually our interior that's the issue in terms of injuries for the offensive line, because that's where most of the sort of slamming is. So having a guy we can maybe trust there, just in case we need him later in the season, would be nice. And then Hassanin, I know we say we're good at edge, but if we can get him back, work his way in, because the team really liked him. We really liked what I saw from him in the preseason as well. Like the run defense was really good, and there's enough there with the pass rush to work on. having him potentially come back down the line, even if it is in the reserve role that he places designated pass rusher or plays in certain packages. Be nice just to give us that extra little boost that might be the extra 0.5% we need to win a game that we might not otherwise, and then that all adds up at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, the one that's really worrying me is DJ Reader, just because, Aleem might be back, but he's only going to be on a snap count potentially. We still need that big presence in the middle. He's come up quite big for us so far, where we've had limited penetration. He's actually been better than he was last season, even though he got his career high in sacks last year. I think he's looked better in that regard, and we've had very limited amounts up there. If he can't go, or if he's limited in some way, I think that's a massive thing against this rushing attack, which is hurting because they haven't obviously got their lead back. But White is a capable number 2 stepping into the starter spot, and Baker, everyone knows quarterbacks don't like pressure up the middle, and I know we haven't really been doing that, but having Reader being limited in any way doesn't help.
Yeah, 100%, and maybe the worrying thing as well about it was we didn't spot it during the game, so it's kind of popped up now that we've spotted it, kind of thing. So it's a worry because it's kind of like Manu last week, where he popped up with that knee injury, and then suddenly a couple of days later he's on IR. We don't want that from a veteran guy, you say, with defensive line or stuff he does there, but also the leadership stuff, because people that listen to Supply Detroit now will know he's one of the vets that supposedly has stepped forward and said, I'm going to have a word with Branch, try and, work with the issues we've got there, try and work with him there, which he maybe can do if he's on IR, but obviously having that veteran presence around day in, day out, that'll be a big miss as well.
All right, roster moves. This is the bit that's especially exciting for Ash, and just to, well, let's do the important bit last, shall we? So waived from the practice squad, defensive lineman Keith Cooper Jr., that happened today, and safety Lauren Strickland from the 53, that happened yesterday. Lauren Strickland then signed back to the practice squad, taking that spot from Keith Cooper. Otherwise signed to the practice squad since the last time we talked. Kendall Fuller was actually broken during the last time we talked, along with Chris Smith and Kingsley Aguakun, or Aguakun, or whichever way you want to say that bloomin' name. The really fun thing is the reason why Cooper's gone, and that is because, and I don't say this lightly, and you can see the glee on his bloody face if you're watching on YouTube and Twitch, is that Ash's favourite ever college player, favourite ever NFL draft prospect, I know that for sure, favourite ever college player from his own FSU, safety Jamie Robinson, has joined the Lions. He was not poached from Kansas City's practice squad, but he was on their practice squad, and it was terminated so that he could join us as a as a UFA, effectively.
Yeah.
Ash, I know you want to talk about Jamie, but just explain the distinction there for everyone.
So obviously, yes, it broke late last night for us, about 2 a.m. over here, that we signed him, and it initially reported as if we signed him directly from Kansas City's practice squad, in which case, as we've seen when we signed Tyler Lacey and Tyra Sweet and such, that he would be subject to the 4-game rule. So he would have to stay on the roster for the next 4 games, no matter what. We can't cut him. However, it's since come out that when we approached Jamie to sign him, Kansas City did a nice to him, basically, and terminated his practice squad contract, which allowed him to sign as an unrestricted free agent, which means he's not subject to that 4-game rule. So it means that if the team does need a roster spot in a couple of weeks, potentially have to buy for someone else, and they're not happy with his play, which I doubt they will be, we can cut him. Basically, it means that he's free to stay as long as we want him to on this one year contract, so be to the end of the season, whenever that may be, hopefully second week of February. But it also means that next week we can cut him if we need to, which is good. It gives a bit of roster flexibility. Also means that he potentially could be around for the rest of the season, which looks likely, because I know Dan, when he was asked about him today, he said that Brad's kept an eye on him ever since. They're really happy to finally get him in. I know we had the pre-combine visit with him. Sean Dion Hamilton, who's now our linebackers coach, was his DB coach at the Senior Bowl. I did put in the tweet from BFF College back then, where there's a rep of him having tight coverage, shall we say, on Rasheed Rice, who obviously came out from SMU in that same draft class at the Senior Bowl. Maybe was a bit of defensive holding in there, which, if you played last week against Rasheed, that would have been turned into DPI, as we know. But this move probably came as a result of the failure of Branch's appeal against his suspension, as we theorized on Monday night, that Branch was appealing because he was hoping to turn that suspension into just a bigger fine, sort of pay his way out of not playing this week. That's obviously failed because, of course, the former Packer is the one to decide with that appeal. So instead, we have now turned to Jamie, who hasn't performed as well in the pros as one would have liked. He's only played 75 snaps so far on defense over the past couple of seasons. So most of those in his rookie season, then a few last season before bouncing around practice squads this season. But he has played a lot of special teams. He is the kind of Brian Branch mold player, very much a slot safety, strong safety kind of guy who fills Branch's role there. Really good run defender, has graded out really well as a tackler, both in the pros and in college. Coverage might need a bit of work because of the agility, but overall, as everyone on Twitter can tell by the 20 million tweets I posted about it, we finally got him. I finally have my favorite ever college player on the Lions, and God, if I get that payback at a time and I'm allowed to, I'm getting their Lions jersey with him on, because why not?
I'm going to be kind and not suggest that he'll be cut before you can afford to do that. But there we go, I said it. Ant is here. How you doing, man?
I'm not bad. Hope you lot are all well.
All good, all good. We're just talking about Jamie Robinson, I'm sure you're aware. You remember him in the draft process particularly, and not just because Ash couldn't shut up about him all fucking cycle?
No, not really. Glorified special teamer. I'll be honest. He's not played any football over the last 3 years, so there's a reason Kansas didn't want him or need him on there. This is just a depth piece, but when you have a draft pick that you like who comes, you've got to be happy about it. So, but yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know whether you'll ever get to experience that, Ant, because of all of your players go to the bloody Steelers.
Oh, I'm at peace. I'm at peace with the fact that I'll never get anyone I like here, and that's my cross to bear.
Fair. We've been talking about any of the other moves, any of the other injury stuff. Anything you want to weigh in on? Hassanin, Frazier, Reeder, Decker, any of the other moves?
Not really at the moment. I mean, it's what we expected with some of these guys. Some of them got little dings and knocks. To buys coming up, so really, if you're good to go, you're good to go. You get a nice long rest after this one. So I don't think there's anyone I'm unduly concerned about at this moment in time.
All right, let's get on to the Bucks preview then, real. The Bucks are, and I mean, this is quite amazing, the only 5-win team in the NFC right now. So they are in sole possession of the number 1 seed. The only one-loss team we have after the Eagles have lost 2 straight games to fall to 4-2. And of course, we did not manage to get to 5-1 last week. The expected wins for the Bucks is 3.3, so they are significantly higher than the wins that they should have achieved, basically on the merit of their play. We've had wins at Arizona, at Houston, versus the Jets, a loss to Philadelphia, and then wins at Seattle, and most recently versus San Francisco. The betting for this game, Tampa Bay is 21-10, that's plus 210, and the Detroit Lions are 13-5 on, that's minus 260. So the Lions, big favourites here at home, even against the team in the number 1 seed. Minus 5.5 points on the spread. 52.5 is the over-under. In terms of the injury report, 5 people not practicing so far for the Lions this week. Terrion Arnold, Kirby Joseph, Avonte Maddox, DJ Reader, and Sione Vaki. Limited in practice, Taylor Decker, and full practice for Zach Cunningham, and, very notably, full practice for Aleem McNeil, yet to be activated, but it looks very much like it is on the cards for this week. I think Dan Campbell said he's damn well playing or something to that effect. So, expecting him to be activated any day now. Tampa Bay, on the other hand, have a lot of injuries right now, including not practicing so far. This is Thursday if you're listening to this after the fact. So, Levante David, Riley Dixon, who's the punter. Emeka Ibuka, who is out for this game. Chris Godwin did not practice, neither did Bucky Irving or Josh Williams. Bucky Irving also ruled out of this game. Limited in practice, Mike Evans is on the way back. He has not played since week, I want to say 2. Week 1, week 2? It's been some time since he's been injured anyway. So the fact that he's limited in practice, I don't know if it's one of those like a Liam where, you know, if they really want him to, he could potentially go on a snap count, but they may hold him out for the week. It's going to be one of those. I don't know if we'll see him or not. Otherwise, full practice for Zion McCollum and Benjamin Morrison. That's really big news for them because I think they've been out for a little bit. Benjamin Morrison, I don't think has appeared at all for them this season after being injured during the draft process, or actually last season in college football, sorry, I beg your pardon. McCollum, obviously, just a big piece as a corner. He's not the best cornerback in the world, but as a cornerback too, he's very serviceable. And then there's a player who just doesn't have a designation, but he is on the report. It's offensive tackle Luke Haggard. Well, it's listed as an offensive tackle, but he is the starting right guard. So we don't know whether he practiced or not. He's just on the report. He didn't practice. Okay, did not practice. Thank you, Ash. All right, looking otherwise at the injured reserve list for them, they have the wide receiver Jalen McMillan, tackle Luke Gedeke, defensive lineman Kalijah Cansey, tight end Co Cleeft, guard Cody Moch, and outside linebacker David Walker. Before I go through the entire team that might be starting this game for the Buccaneers, and that is a heck of a list of injuries for this Buccaneers team. The only 5-1 team in the NFC, and they've been performing well in spite of all the injuries they've had. I mean, they've only had Ibuka as a wide receiver for a while in terms of marquee players out there, and, you know, all their corners have been injured, all their wide receivers have been injured, Cansey's gone, no Gedeke. They had the other tackle out for a while as well. David Walker, they were counting on the edge for a little bit. Mulch on the offensive line. They have been dealing with it all. I mean, we think we're banged up, but they are equally so.
Yeah, the trouble is, like us, they don't care if they're injured. They keep playing. They don't let it get on top of them. Quite frankly, they're the toughest team in the NFL, I would say, when it comes to how they play and to their resilience, the way they play ball. I hate playing against them because they're the one team that can, you know, out-physical us on their day. There's not many teams that are able to do that. And, you know, you sport some very good areas. You've got injuries and bits there, but you have an elite front seven who can always change the game for you. You do physically have the toughest quarterback in the NFL. You can sack the fucker 20 times and he still will act like he's not been hit once. You know, there's no putting him down and leaving him there. He'll just keep on coming at you again and again and again. And that's the way this team plays. There was that amazing stat before the 49ers game. You know, they're sitting there at 4-1. And they said if games ended after 58 minutes and not 60 minutes, they would have been 0-4. Oh, sorry, 0-5. They wouldn't have won a single game. Those 4 wins all came in the last 2 minutes, which shows you one thing. They go for 60 minutes. They don't tire. They don't go away. They keep at you. They keep harassing you. And if you switch off, if you run out of energy, if your legs start to go, then they'll beat you. So it's the way they play football. It can overcome this sleuth of injuries, and it's just next man after next man after next man standing up and making plays. So the last week, Tez Johnson comes up with a big play downfield touchdown for them when they need receivers in the room. It's just there's always someone there who will step into the void, and you know they will never use their injuries as an excuse, and they will carry on playing good football. So, you know, it's a team I have an utmost ton of respect for, and will always do when we're playing against them. I'd say 60-minute teams are the most dangerous of the lot of them when they play the way they do.
Ash, before we go into what the team is and how they play and all that sort of thing, I know what Ant's saying. I wholeheartedly agree with it. It's a gritty team, an aggressive team that's missing a whole heck of a lot. The fact that they're at 5 wins, even if it's a bit lucky or it's been done late, as Ant has been saying, still mightily impressive.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I just go back to that Bucks Seahawks game, which yes, winnable one, was the prettiest uniform game we're probably going to see in a while. But the fact that they were able to just to duke it out with Godwin out, with Mike Evans out, who's their sort of big X guy. They were relying on basically their rookie receiver, a career wide receiver four, and then a lot of just random slot players basically, and they still managed to keep pace. And yeah, they're missing their best interior pass rusher with Clancy, right tackles out, Mouch is out, all these pieces missing, and yet they still managed to drag themselves over the line. Like, there's a reason why I agree with Ant that I hate playing them as well, because there's not many teams who are able to keep up with us physically, but also have the finesse to, go for a shootout out with us and that. And it's this team, which is why you look back at the last couple of games we played them. Yeah, okay, we've got 2 seasons ago, we've won the double over them, obviously, with the game in their backyard and then the playoff game against them in ours. But last season, there's one of the reasons why they were one of the 3 teams we lost to all of last season in our own backyard. Week 2, they were able to keep up with us, even when Aiden was doing his amazing thing, like 5 sacks in the first half. They kept themselves in that game and they won it quite rightly. And it's the same with this season where, yeah, quite a lot of their wins have come pretty late on, but they've kept themselves in those games for as long as they can, and they just have that extra little bit of mentality, that extra little bit of oomph just to get them over the finish line. And God, it's gonna be a bloody boxing match for a game on Monday night if things are going the way they do, where we're just going to be slugging it out, and yeah, it's going to be whoever can basically eat the punches the most and keep on their feet.
Right, let's get to their team and how it looks at the moment. Their starting quarterback, of course, is Baker Mayfield, as aforementioned. To the backup is a player that we know very well in Detroit. Teddy Bridgewater is the backup, so even if Baker goes out, they're going to be competitive. Running back, Bucky Irving, as I mentioned, has been ruled out, so the starter will be Rachaad White, and the backup will be Sean Tucker, who is also their kick returner. Very, very handy back. In terms of the wide receivers, so at the moment, no Evans, Godwin, or Ibuka, with Ibuka definitely ruled out, and it looks like Godwin definitely won't be able to go as well, and I think he won't be able to go for some time. Evans, we don't know. My feeling is that he won't go yet, but we'll see. It's certainly positive signs compared to where he's been the last couple of weeks. The rest of the guys, who I think have played admirably in the absence of all of these really big name players, they're led by Sterling Shepard via the Giants, Ryan Miller, and then Tez Johnson, 7th round pick this year. He's been fantastic, I think. And then Cameron Johnson is the number 4. He had a touchdown last week. I thought looked very handy. At tight end, they have Cade Otton, Payne Durham behind him, and Devin Culp. And then the offensive line, Tristan Wirfs at left tackle, Ben Bredesen at left guard, Graham Barton at centre, Luke Haggard, potentially injured, at right guard, and Charlie Heck at right tackle. They're all backed up by Dan Feeney, Elijah Klein, and Benjamin Chukwuma. Looking at the defense, in their base 3-4, they play Logan Hall, Vita Vea, and Greg Gaines as their 3-down linemen. They're backed up by CJ Brewer, Elijah Simmons, and Elijah Roberts. How many Elijahs do you want on the team? Outside linebackers, Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby. They're backed up by Anthony Nelson, Chris Braswell, and Marquise Watts. Inside linebackers, Levante David and Slavosier Dennis, backed up by Dion Jones and John Bullock. Nickelbacks, Jacob Parrish, backed up by Christian Isian if they're in nickel. And then their outside corners, Jamel Dean, who is on a tear this season. He's been the player we all know he can be, but maybe hasn't been at points in his career. Zion McCollum, if he goes. They have been starting in McCollum's absence, former Lion Kindle Vildor, who got a pick very early on in the game last week. And really should have had a pick 6, but he managed to fall over 3 times in the most Kindle Vildor fashion you will ever see. Also Josh Hayes behind him. Safeties, Tyke Smith and Antoine Winfield Jr., backed up by Kayvon Merriweather and Sebastian Castro. Kicker is Chase McLaughlin, who I think is kind to say has struggled compared to how he has been earlier on in his career, where he's super reliable, especially from a bit longer distance. He's been very poor of late. Punter Riley Dixon, although he's injured at the moment, who knows if he can go. Long snapper is Evan Deckers. On the practice squad, just glancing through this for anyone of note, Mo Camara, formerly of Eastern Michigan? I want to throw that out
Colorado
there.
State.
Oh, damn it. Thank you. Bryce Hall, not Brees Hall, in corner. No one else really there. Desmond Watson. Oh, anyway, never mind. Boys, having a look at this squad, despite all of the injuries, there are some big name players on both sides of the ball here. Offensive line is pretty good. Rashad White, is never the pick that they hoped he was going to be when they took him in 2022, but still passable. The wide receivers have given them enough to get wins, and then on defense, that front seven is still fearsome. Vita Vea is still him. Jamel Dean is having an incredible season. Then Antoine Winfield is still one of the best safeties in the league, and they're getting some incredible play from Jacob Parrish and the nickel as a third-round rookie. And your thoughts on this team? You've already kind of given it holistically in terms of how gritty it is, but they've got some big players still.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful. Those trenches are still very much intact from the majority of the injuries they've got on that team, and that's where they do their business. They're a weird team. Like, offensively, they're so weird. They've been bang average to not good at running the football for years now, and yet that offense is consistently good. They're one of the few teams in the league that use the run game as a supplement to their passing game. They use the passing game to get into second and short, third and short, and then they use the run to convert. Not many teams do it that way, but they have these receivers who are very technical at what they do. Abuka, that's why you draft him. Very technically gifted route runner. Evans, technically gifted as they get. Godwin there's a specific type of receiver they like there. These guys who can get open quick, give Baker good targets, move it down the field, and use the runners to supplement that. And they find a way to make it work. It's just odd. Usually teams like that, they don't lose time of possession. They're one of the better teams in the league for that. It's just something that you don't really come across. But obviously it's marshaled by, their version of Jared Goff. And Baker is as tough as they come. He's one of the best QBs in the league currently, and I think the advanced metrics are backing him up at the minute as well. What has he got? The best EPA in the league for a quarterback at the moment. It's crazy. So when you've got that guy under center setting the tempo, your offense hums so much better. And then defensively, they're amazing. You saw what they did really against the 49ers. I mean, they had the one touchdown they gave up early on, but they don't mind the linebackers are useless in coverage. They're not that great between 20 to 20, but when it matters, they're damn good. They just switch the button and become elite, and it's the front seven. They defend the red zone better than nearly anybody. When you get in there, you've got to try and make it count, but because the field's saturated and there's not much room, that front seven gets in at you quick. The secondary can hold up very well, and your quarterback gets sacked more often than not. 49ers were just hitting field goals against them the other day. That was really all they could muster. They kept McCaffrey quiet because the interior of that line's still good. Vea looks amazing, even at his age. It's crazy how good he still looks at his age. But see, they've supplemented that line with a lot of youngsters. Yaya Diaby looks really good this year. Elijah Roberts is starting to break out for them now. This is his first year as well. You've talked about, the corners, the rookies, these guys. They're supplementing a ton of experience with some really good rooks who are ready to go right away. So the defense has a very good balance of youth and experience and a hell of a lot of talent. So yeah, they are still formidable. I look at this injury list and I'm like, it's the one team in the league where I'd look at their injury list and go, it doesn't really matter. I don't think it really matters. Because I know whoever's stepping up for them is gonna do it, and they're gonna come into Detroit. They're gonna be favored to lose. Everyone thinks we're gonna beat them, and we've not lost back to back in years, and they'll just use that as fuel. And if we don't approach this in the right way, especially on the offense, it's a massive game for John Morton. If he doesn't call this thing right, they're gonna absolutely abuse him. So, this team is dangerous. It has the right parts at the right positions to hurt us, and I am 100% not taking anything for granted against them.
Ash is an impressive team.
Yeah, especially offensively. Like, this is their third offense coordinator in 3 years, and he's probably going to get a head coaching job at the end of this year. Obviously, 2 years ago, it was Dave Canales, who went to the Panthers. Last year, Liam Coben, who's now with the Jags. And now Josh Grizzard, who has worked his way up from being a student assistant at Yale, where he played football as a safety, and in the space of 13 years. He's gone from that to being the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and head coaching guy. It's amazing what he's done with this offense because, yeah, at least the ones that have come before have they've had that nice duo of Evans and Godwin to play with at receiver and a pretty solid offensive line that hasn't had to chop and change parts. And Baker's been good. Grizzard's done just as well with less. He's had to rely on the rookie basically as his wide receiver one. The offensive line, he didn't have Christian Wirfs for a bit of it and they've lost their starter. It's one of their starting guards and Cody Mount. Their starting center was having to play left tackle for some games because of injuries. And yet he's kept this offense afloat. So damn good job by him. And then what Bowles has done on the defense as he usually does with his blitz heavy scheme and that covering up some of the deficiencies with injuries in the back end, as you said, with Simon Collin being out, and so Greenfield taking a step back. Like we all know how much I loved him as a sort of flexible safety piece. Just done amazing. And again, losing his sort of star defensive lineman in a way next to Vita Vea in Cansey, he still manages to get penetration on opposing offensive lines and stop the run in the backfield, get pass rush. They are one of these teams kind of like us that sometimes they can get less from more. And yeah, it's going to be scary because they might get Evans back, even if it's on a pitch count. That will help their offense. Getting McCollum back so they have as much speed as Vildor has done well in relief. That's an improvement for them. It is going to be a really hard team for us to play against.
Let's move on to the stats. PFF has this as the 13th overall team, 16th on offense, 14th on defense, 24th on special teams. DVOA has it at 13th overall. EPA has it at 15th, offensive 12th, defensive 19th. So all the major metrics have this team as a kind of middle of the pack, slightly above average unit, but on all sides of the ball. And, you know, we see from these teams that are just slightly above average on both sides of the ball that can be a championship team. You know, there's nothing about this. There's no real weak links. Both sides of the ball can win them games. They can play complementary football. When you see a massive mismatch where offense is second, but defense is second last, or vice versa, you find that one side is having to carry the team so much that it really kind of just destroys the way that the team plays together. And this is absolutely not the case with this one. So even though we were talking up both sides of the ball, or especially talking up the offense, don't be fooled by the fact that it's 16th overall by PFF or 12th overall by EPA. That masks the fact that, you know, the defense is doing enough to play complementary ball and likewise for the offense for the defense. Baker Mayfield, 129 of 195, that's 66%, 1,539 yards, 12 touchdowns, only one pick, passer rating of 108.5, QBR of 75.4, PFF grade of 82.6, which leads the offense. Rashad White is 54 for 214 and 4 touchdowns. That's 4 yards per carry and 15 of 16 for 85 in the air. PFF grade for him 76. So actually pretty damn good as far as running back grades go because they're normally quite deflated. Wide receiver leader at the moment for those who might play is Sterling Shepard. I took, you know, the obvious one out, mainly because he hasn't played very much and also we don't know whether he's actually going to go. Shepard, 19 of 27 for 242 and 1 touchdown, 12.7 yards per catch, PFF grade of 67.2. And then the lead tight end, Cade Otton, 15 of 22 for 166. That's 11.1 yards per catch. No touchdowns for him, PFF grade of 53.3. Other good grades in there, Tristan Wirfs, 76.8. He's had some poor reps, but he's been dealing with injury. So I think that excuses that. I think otherwise he's been an absolute beast in some reps. He's been unplayable. So, you know, it's a bit up and down for him at the moment, but the further it gets away from that injury, I think the better he's playing. Other worse grades in there, Graham Barton, the centre, 55.9, guard Luke Haggard, 51.8, and Ben Bredesen, the left guard, 49.4. This team's 14th on third down, getting 41.1% conversion rate. They've only gone for it 5 times on fourth down, got it 60% of the time, that's 17th. In the red zone, they've had 19 trips in their 6 games, getting 10, that's 53%, which is 23rd, which is not as high as you might think. On defense, defensive tackle leader Vita Vea, 1 fumble recovery, 2.5 sacks, 14 tackles, 2 tackles for a loss, 14 quarterback hits and a PFF grade of only 64.6, but man turns up on third down, I will say. Maybe not the down-to-down beast we are used to, but when it really, really matters, he's the one in the backfield rushing your quarterback or stopping your running back short. Defensive end, Hassan Reddick, 1 pass defended, 1.5 sacks, 16 tackles, 3 TFLs, 4 quarterback hits, PFF grade of 62.8. Linebacker Levante David, an interception, 2 passes defended, 2.5 sacks, 40 tackles, 5 TFLs, 5 quarterback hits, and a PFF grade of 54.5. Again, another player who I think on a down-to-down basis has not been up to his usual best, but who pops up in those incredibly important moments to make game-changing plays. You know, everyone talks about explosives and the need to get explosives. Him and Vea are those guys. Cornerback Jamel Dean, as I said, he's been on a bit of a tear. 2 interceptions, including a pick 6. 5 passes defended and a forced fumble, a sack, 16 tackles, a TFL, a quarterback hit, and a PFF grade of 90.1, which for a corner is exceptional. And then lead safety, for the moment, is Tyke Smith, with 7 passes defended, a fumble recovery and a sack, 45 tackles, 2 TFLs and a quarterback hit, and a PFF grade of 75.9. The other safeties in the other good grades, Winfield Jr., 73.6, and nickelback Jacob Parrish, rookie third rounder, 69.8 grade as a rookie. Incredible. The only bad grade in there for anyone who's taken any sort of significant reps is the starting linebacker Savossier Dennis with a 44.4. Again, someone who I have seen make splash plays, especially last week he had a really big play for a sack or a CFL, I can't remember which it was. But again, on a down-to-down basis, not been incredible. This defense is 15th on third down, allowing 39% completion. Faced fourth down 12 times and only allowed it 5 of those 12 times. That's 41.7%. That's 6th in the NFL. And then in the red zone, they've only conceded 16 trips in their 6 games. That's less than 3 red zone trips a game allowed. They have allowed 11 touchdowns on those 16 trips. So when teams get in the red zone against this team, they're very efficient against this defense. But you don't get there very often, and that's the really big thing. So that's 69% conversion rate for red zone touchdowns. It's 28th in the NFL. A lot of stats I've just thrown at you there, boys. Ash, just to come to you first. You talked up this offense, and Baker's in the form of his life. We'll talk about the San Francisco game, because there are a few errant throws in there, but he is playing with supreme confidence and command of the offense, despite the fact that if you were a quarterback who really relied on chemistry, he might be suffering right now, but it doesn't seem to affect him at all. No,
he is the kind of QB that I kind of wish Goff would be a bit more, where sometimes, if the receiver isn't the most separate, he still tries to get the ball in there. So Goff has shown he is doing more and more, but sometimes it's a thing where he does double clutch it, go through his read review many times. Baker's just doing so well, and he's, as kind of alluded to earlier, the offense is just setting up perfectly for that. So they use motion, the 6th most of any team in the league right now. 64.5% of their offensive plays having some form of motion in. On those plays, they have 0.22 EPA per play. That's 2nd in the league. They don't use play action as much, only 19.3%, which is 28th. But when they do, 0.45 APA per play, which is 4th in the league. When they are not blitzed, which is most of their plays, so they're blitzed the 12th most of any team in the league with 31.8%. But when they're not blitzed, 4th highest EPA in the league. When they're pressured, Baker's are really good. Got the 6th highest EPA in the league, was minus 0.07. They just set up freak strengths. And one of those is, and it's luckily for us, it'll be something to be less of it because Evans and Ibuka won't be there. So maybe you won't have to trust going down deep. They have the most deep passing attempts of any team in the league so far this season, with 16.5% of their throws going deep, which is 1st in the league. On those throws, they have the 4th highest EPA, 1.11 EPA per play. They just set it up perfectly for what Baker likes to do. He's very similar to Goff, where Goff perhaps has got the better overall passing. Baker's more likely to throw it up deep and trust a 50-50 ball than Goff is. And it shows with some of the stats right now. And it's the same on intermediate. They don't really like to throw short. They actually throw short. the 31st highest in the league. So only one team throws short routes less than the Bucks do on those routes. The short ones, they're ninth in EPA. All these things are just set up perfectly for Baker's strengths, and it works, as we can say. As Ant alluded to earlier, though, their run game is a bit of an issue for them. They are one of those outside zone teams. Grizzard does come from the Miami sort of tree. That's where he was before he went to Tampa. So he does have those outside zone, Mike McDonald, Shanahan, Chick McVay sort of runs concepts in him. They do run those, the 12th most in the league. Over 50% of their runs go on that. But they have the worst EPA on those runs with minus 0.23 EPA per play. Worst in the league. They're the worst in the league against light boxes, minus 0.27 EPA per play. Baker is very much carrying offense right now, and he'll be even more so now where potentially he'll be down these top 3 receivers. He'll be with Sterling Shepard, who I've been on record saying great as a number 4. If you need to play him for a game, great. He should not be your wide receiver 1. Tej Johnson, he was so good in college at Oregon. He's definitely flashed, but now with him taking a higher workload on when he's lighter than me, that might be a bit of an issue. And then the other guy, Kevin Johnson's come in. He's had a couple of throws, but again, can he produce in a bigger role? It's one of these now where Baker's already had that pretty much entire offense on his back. Will he be able to carry even more against us? Where, yes, I know we had a down week this past week against the Chiefs. Our secondary is going to be banged up, but if the defensive line and the linebackers get pressure on him, is he able to get the ball out? Is he able to get to the playmakers when he doesn't have that trust in them? They're not as good. Be interesting to see, because if he is, he's going to tear our secondary apart.
And what do you think about this overall team statistically? I mean, we've talked about it holistically as an entire team, but Dean is on a tear, and I mean, some of the stats are not exactly flattering about their defense and how it's played on maybe a down-to-down basis, but man, have they flashed big at the really important times. And I think we're going to come on to the San Francisco game, but time and time again on 3rd down, this team just lit them up.
Yeah, they bend, don't break. You know, they are susceptible to bits down the field, and you know, San Francisco did have some big chunk plays down the field, but the second it came to a situation where the field bunched up, Tampa just swarmed them. And if they can get at you early and put you in 3rd and long, then your game is hopeless. You're not going to get anything from them. And you know, it all starts with them, with their run defense. It's one of the best in the league. They give up less than 90 yards per game against the run. And interestingly, you look, I don't use PFF that often, but when they draft players on that defense, not just the front 4, but 6 of their top 7 run defenders are the secondary and the linebackers. Every single guy they draft, Tyke Smith, you go back to him at Georgia and what they do against the run. Zion McCullum, when he played for Sam Houston in the FCS, they were the best run defense in the nation. Every single guy they draft has a purpose towards that run defense. And with that front 4 there, you just cannot break them down. Christian McCaffrey got nothing. You saw him constantly again and again and again, having to try and bounce to the outside, try and find himself some room, and they just hunted him down like a rabid dog. And they gave him nothing to work with at all. And then that forces the throws down the field. You get 2 interceptions off Mac Jones because he's errantly forcing throws down the field, and they pick him off. And, you know, it's just a knock-on effect. So the way that defense plays, yeah, as I say, it does have its little chinks in its armor, but when it comes to the money downs, they're perfect. And as a team as well, technically, they're one of the best ones in the league. Last 3 games, they are the least penalized team in the entire league. You know, they play a very clean brand of football now. They've committed 2 turnovers all season. Just 2 in 6 games. They don't give you the football willingly. So you've got to make your own opportunities. They're not giving away short fields. They're not giving away favorable field position. If the drives do stall, they're always punting downfield. The special teams was damn good against San Francisco, putting them in, although there were some very choice returns in that game, which I hope our returners don't make the same mistake of doing. But, you know, they are clinical. They're technical. You know, they do all the right aspects of the game, and you know that's what I see with them. Like, it's a tough nut to crack. You know, they are a Brazil nut which you need a sledgehammer to break open. They're that tough. So, you know, it's not down to it. It's the scheme. It's the way they play. We've known for years the way they blitz, all their corners and safeties blitz as well. Again, it's kind of a prerequisite to play on that defense. And then all your linebackers like Savotier and guys like that, they're designed to come on these blitzers from all over. You're so focused on trying to stop Vita Vea and those guys off the edge, but you've got to look in a billion different directions. Where are your late blitzing linebackers? Where are your secondary coming off the line of scrimmage? They just confuse the hell out of you. And yes, it's aggressive and it does open them up to some big plays sometimes, but for the most part, it works and it's very tough. So you have got to play good football. You cannot put yourself behind the chains with these guys at all, or they'll eat you alive. And we've seen them do that to us before, especially when they've stopped us running the football. So you've got to have a lot of tricks up your sleeve to play against these guys, and you've got to find some way to break them open. Your offensive line's got to be tip top. So getting Decker back's a big must for this. I know Skip played well last week, but having these rookies and the backups in there at the minute, we need our front five to be at full strength and to go for this one, because we need to be as technically efficient as we possibly can be. And the receivers, everybody, running backs, they're gonna have to bring their A game.
I'm just going to talk briefly and holistically about the 49ers game. They won 30-19 in a game which, I don't know, it remained competitive without ever looking like Tampa Bay were going to be in trouble. Baker threw well with anticipation all through the game. Maybe the first series of wide receivers kind of struggled to create separation, but that kind of went away. The run game carried them in that first series, I think, and they actually had good success in the early downs as opposed to the passing to open up the run, which Ant spoke about, and they very much moved to later on from after the first drive. Baker had a couple of throws which should have been picked. One was dropped by Winters. I can't remember who the other one was, but uncharacteristic throws by Baker that he kind of got away with. Ibuka also dropped two really, really catchable throws that caused the punt in this game. But otherwise, the receivers managed to find a lot of space in between the linebackers and the DBs. And Baker just tore them apart. Everything he could that was either a cover 2 beater in between the corners and the safeties, or whether it was a Tampa 2 beater by getting it in between the linebackers and the safeties. It was always in that sort of secondary area, to Ash's point where they don't throw it short. There was so little short in this game, and they were so efficient throwing those balls. There was one play where there was a massive bust in coverage, and Baker took a huge hit to throw to Cameron Johnson for a touchdown. He just walked in. It was beautiful, him just sticking in there and throwing it to him at the perfect time. Baker had maybe one of the plays of the season. He should have been sacked by two men. He managed to scramble outside of it, faked a throw at the line, beat one on a juke, powered through two to convert on third and I think it was like 18 or something. Ridiculous rep. Tez Johnson had a seam route where he burned the San Francisco DB's lovely throw by Baker. I mean, his use of the pump fake to move players and then throw it looks like prime Brady. Frankly, that way that Brady used to pump fake and then throw, Baker has it. It's so impressive. There was a botched handoff between Baker and White late, but White fell back on it. Otherwise, another good throw to Cameron Johnson. Just overall, impressive. Shepard had a very nice rep as well with some good yak. That was one of the few short throws I saw all day. So overall, from the offense, I was very, very impressed. Defensively, we know how aggressive this front seven is. If you can beat that front seven, to Ant's point on Discord earlier, that's the key to beating this team. But, good luck with that. The interception by Vildor, that was caused by the defensive line being so aggressive up front, and frankly, Mac Jones just panicked and threw it straight to him. It had a bit of misdirection, that defense, so it looked like quarters they rolled into cover 2. I actually talked about that with Ash before the game in terms of something I'd like to see from the Lions. We'll talk about that in a minute. There was a massive play-action drop from Kendrick Bourne, who had massive separation deep. Jones missed him, I think. Vea unblockable on third down. He didn't actually get the sack. Elijah Roberts did, but Vea caused the mayhem. Again, Vea on third down and a subsequent one for a sack. Jamal Dean had a strip sack after blitzing off the edge. They don't do that very often with their corners, but he came on the blitz and won, beating the tight end for a really nice sack. Bourne managed to get some really big separation in this game, actually quite often, and Jones did manage to get it to him a couple of times. Coverage struggled at times against the San Francisco team, which is what kind of kept them in it. To Ant's point, again, beat those front seven, time to throw, you can pick him off at the back end because they're short. Wide receivers and tight ends are going to have to be on guard for run blitzes. I mean, so often they're just bringing all seven upfield, so something we're potentially pretty good at with JMO and Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, who's now really brought that into his game. They're all going to have to be on point, because if they're not, this could be a very long game for us. Another rep where, you know, they really struggled in that intermediate area between the linebackers and DBs. The way that Baker was killing San Francisco was the way that San Francisco was killing Tampa Bay, which is really funny. So Marquez Valdes-Scantling finding space in there. You know, it's one of those things that hopefully Goff, as a more accurate quarterback, should be able to exploit. Mac Jones surprised them a few times with sneaks. Actually, when it really, really mattered later on in the game, they rejected it. But a couple of times in this game, they didn't really line up on third and short as if they were going to do a sneak, and then he did it anyway, and Tampa looked surprised, which I thought was interesting. Otherwise, what really kind of defined this game, I don't know if you guys felt the same about this, is that San Francisco actually had a really impressive number of offensive yards. And to your point you said about bend, don't break, they had a huge number of field goals, San Francisco, in this game, and Tampa Bay had a much larger number of touchdowns, and that was the difference in this game. They let them get all the way towards field goal territory. I won't say red zone, but field goal territory, and then drives stalled out, and that's the reason why I think Tampa came and won this game.
Yeah, that's why they're so dangerous. You know, you can stat pad all you want against them, but the defense will stop you from scoring points. So you've got to be clinical, and that's what teams have not been this year. Again, 4 teams had the opportunity to put them away before that San Francisco game the other week, and 4 teams didn't take that opportunity. You know, you give them a little bit of an in, and they'll bite you, and that's with being so short-handed. So, you know, with all the single digit wins and stuff like that, but it shows how mentally resilient they are. The 49ers, I didn't think it was that competitive. I thought Tampa did a number on them, and yes, they had some big chunks downfield, but you never really felt Tampa were in danger. And every time something was asked of them and they needed to respond, they did, and San Francisco didn't really have an answer for it. You know, they beat them up on the line of scrimmage for the most part. So, you know, and one part that's underrated about this Tampa offense, what's going to hurt us? Baker's rushing ability is not talked about anywhere near enough. People think he's this stand and deliver pocket passer guy. He can rush the football. I mean, this year so far, I mean, in that game, he had that one amazing run that he had where he broke like 4 tackles, but he's running at 7.2 yards per attempt as a rusher this year. He's got 128 yards after contact, getting nearly 6 yards after contact. He's forced 11 missed tackles. Jared Goff has forced 10 in his decade-long career. Like, you can get to Baker. If you don't tackle properly, he'll shut you off because he's strong enough. If your discipline is bad, he will hurt you. And, you know, we say the run game of theirs is not very good. No, it's not. But their quarterback can run the football, and a lot of teams don't anticipate that right. And, you know, we are sometimes guilty of lackadaisical tackling and stuff. You know, Hutch, it's big. Hutch has been fucking awful this year when it comes to trying to tackle quarterbacks properly when they're trying to break out of the pocket. So, you know, there's a lot to this team that you've got to be careful with. But you can tell Baker's the heart and soul of that team, and you can't kill him. That's the trouble. You just physically cannot kill him. You could drop a dump truck on him and he'd get up afterwards, shake it off, and carry on playing. It's that's what stands out about them. But yeah, the defense was just all over Mac. Like Mac's just an ultimate stat padder in this game. Give field goals away. You can win a game giving away 6, 7 field goals. You're only going to score a couple of touchdowns, a couple of plays after that. That's all you need. So I thought they were impressive given how short-handed they've been and what they're having to deal with. But again, those trenches are intact, and you saw those trenches intact. San Francisco had no answer for Vita Vea whatsoever, and we have struggled with him like a bastard in the past. You know, our rookies got put under some real pressure in this game. They've got to bring it. They've got to bring it.
I forgot to go through special teams in this game, so briefly we'll do before I throw it over to Ash. Sean Tucker, who's the kick returner, really screwed up on a return. He received a ball at the -1, so behind the goal line. Should have taken a knee. They're asked to take a knee, basically, if it goes into the end zone. He knew that, but he still advanced the ball a yard and broke the plane. But he hesitated because he knew he should have stayed, and he ended up only advancing it to like the 6 or 7 or something like that. That was really not a good play. Sean, what's his name? I can never remember the bloody kicker's name. Chase McLaughlin. He missed a 49-yarder wide right, which would have been making it a 2-score game with 8 minutes left. As it was, they turned the ball over because of the missed kick in plus territory, where San Francisco could have tied the game. So, really big kick from 49, which is not... It's not a short kick. It's not a long kick. He did make up for it shortly afterwards, after the defense did its job, and he got another opportunity from 45 yards to make it a 2-score game. That's what made it an 11-pointer as opposed to the 8-pointer that it was. Ash, what did he think of the game? I know we were in London for it, but we were watching it intently, hoping the result would potentially... Well, I don't know what we were hoping for, maybe just a good game. And it was entertaining.
Yeah, like I'm going to admit I was watching hoping the Bucs win because I just prefer them to the 49ers. But yeah, I was hoping also for a good game because there had been some stinkers on the slate before the game. So I was hoping, for a good one. I agree with the Tucker mess up on the kick return. We both said it. Well, you definitely said it with that, and I agreed with you. Yeah, that's just a dumb decision. And we've seen other returners do it, but again, that's something we can hopefully pray on. Now, while kick coverage is finally back to what it's supposed to be, that's the kind of mistake that we can make them pay for because, getting it at the 10 instead of the 20, that's a whole first down extra they have to get to score. That's a little bit more margin error for us. So hopefully we pray on that. But yeah, there was, I remember watching it and saying to you, like, especially with their coverage, susceptible to one side, and some of their offensive players were facing from the 49ers. It seemed they were really forcing it to one side of the field. You can guess which side it was in terms of which corner was on that side. But I was watching them, I was like, I know currently a load of places now have the Bucs as their number one team. They've just put them up there just because of virtue of they're one of the few one-loss teams in the league right now. But again, it shows to what I said on Monday, where there's a lot of parity right now in the league, and yet the Bucs don't look like, while they're not exactly like going to be a pushover, they also don't look insurmountable. There are weaknesses there for us to take advantage of. It's just, can we, considering that we didn't do the same last week against the Chiefs, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot. We can't do that again this week with these because the Bucs are the kind of team that will, again, just put us away if we let them. So, but yeah, like, the QB sneak thing, we're probably not going to do that, unfortunately. We will not risk off with that. But the fact that maybe there are plays we can build off that where we suddenly motion a guy into the backfield, like a tight end sneak that we've seen the Packers do a couple of times, something like that. There's ways that we can take advantage of what we saw on tape against the 49ers and hopefully turn that into good plays for us, because we're going to need every little thing that we can against these, because as I said earlier, it's going to be a boxing match of a game to watch.
So, Ant, when it comes down to the specifics of this game, what are the keys to victory for the Lions? We, more than most teams, especially you, because I always like to talk about how teams might be better. You are more realistic when it comes to talking about other teams. So you being complimentary, I think, speaks volumes about this team. How do the Lions get the best of them this week?
Again, the critical thing is you've got to nullify that front seven. Because again, we talked about how it brings so much pressure on your quarterback and on your system. You've got to run the ball well. The offensive line has to execute perfectly. You've got to pick up your blocks. You can't be late for an assignment. Otherwise, you're going to get blown up in the backfield. We've seen examples over the last few weeks of just some of those little problems eking back into that game again, where we're allowing free blitzers through the middle of our running backs, where we're not quite picking up properly. You do this against Tampa, you're going to lose, or you're going to be in a very low-scoring shootout. You have got to perform incredible, and your offense has got to be varied. You've got to throw all kinds of different looks, and you've got to try and get them off balance. if you can get that defense off balance, if you have to make them think twice about sending so much at you, you've got to use all your playmakers. You've got to, don't just try and run it at Vita Vea. Try and run outside the tackles. Try and find some form of weakness on this team. Be varied with your play calling. Because when Morton's on a bad day, he's not, and they will eat up that shit alive. On his day when he's calling a good game, I think he's got a chance of taking them apart and throwing something. He's been very varied with what he's done. So hopefully we get a good day for him. But, certainly offensively, you've got to nullify the front seven, and that's all down to what you throw at them and how varied you are with that. Defensively, I mean, I don't know what we can do against them. I watched last week as Kansas just kind of ripped us apart in that secondary. We're so bare on depth at the moment. All the guys are beaten up. Kendall Fuller and Jamie just don't move a needle for anything, really. So you're going to have the same issues again. Obviously, no Brian this time, which is a pain. So I think, Kelvin's got to get creative as well. We're going to stop the run against them. We know we're going to do that. They never run the football on us when they play against us. It's always Baker through the air, using his top playmakers to be able to dissect us and take us apart. They don't have their top playmakers this time. So there's really no excuse, but Kelvin, I think you've got to go for Baker. You've got to put him under pressure. You've got to be very disciplined with the rushing against him. I think you've got to throw some different looks in to put his timing off as well. You take the timing out of that offense, then you're going a long way to winning the game. So, yeah, it's aggression on defense and it's variety on offense. Those are the ways that you win this game. If you don't bring those, you're going to struggle.
Ash, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. So one thing that, again, with my changes to the preview that I'm going to be doing after consultation with people last week, one thing is to spam play action. So that while they have only faced play actions on about 17.8% of their defensive snaps, which is 29th least in the 29th in the league. They give up over half a point EPA per drop back that's play action. That's 31st in the league. So we're first in that. We get 0.6 EPA per play. So spam the play action, spam under center because they're also bad against that offensively. And just, attack them. Have right in the run game. Don't just run at Vita Vea, even though currently their defense is the best in the league in terms of EPA per play on outside runs given up. Don't go away from that. And don't be afraid to use Monty more. I know it's something that Dan has identified and he said, we have gone away from Monty the past couple of weeks and it has hurt us offensively. Yes, Gibbs is the big flashy guy right now. We still need Monty because he offers this offense that just Gibbs doesn't. Like, Gibbs is great. He can burst the 80-yard runs. Monty, sometimes you just need that consistent success rate. If you're going to get 3 or 4 yards a clip, he's going to keep you in front of the chains. We need that. So that's what I do offensively. And defensively, it is... I kind of agreed to Kansas City Toast last week, but it was more just linebackers and the tackling for me. Like, the secondary was, for the most part, aside from a couple of plays where, like, a Meek lost concentration for half a second and lost his guy, and he had 3 guys going towards Kelsey, and it left Thornton open at the back of the end zone. Make sure you tackle, because, they're going to be down their playmakers, but as Ry was here, who tell us all about Rashad White at ASU, he was a good back there. He just hasn't really hit the ground running in the league, but now he's got some chance. He's doing okay. Sterling Shepard, for as great as I said, he's a good wide receiver for. He can consistently move the chains for you. Tess Johnson's fast as fuck. We need to make sure that we wrap up, because they are the kind of offense, again, that can run through an arm tackle and turn what should be a 3-yard gain into a 7-8 yard gain. And that's what we saw last week, and it's what puts in bad positions. So make sure we tackle and target their interior, because that's the weak part. Wirfs is great. We'll probably have Hutch lined up against him now that we start moving him around a bit more. Interior, especially if we get a lean back, attack it, have the linebackers blitz through those gaps as well, because that's where they're weak. Their guards haven't been too good. Graham Barton's been moving around left, right, and centre, so he hasn't really settled in at centre this so far this season. Attack that interior, because Baker does not like pressure in his face, very much like Goff. If we can get that, we can force some errant throws, and whoever's back there, if it is Jamie, if it is Thomas Harper, who I think has gone very underrated for what he did in his one drive last week. He was looking really good. This is a guy who got a couple of picks last season in rotation for Vegas. He could pick off an errant throw for Baker, and it could be finally forcing those turnovers on their offense to turn it from a very close game to suddenly us having a score and a half lead, and just having that consistent gap between us. Because if we keep it close going into the end, as they've shown throughout this season, they're the kind of team that can suddenly flip it in the last couple of minutes and pull out a win. Don't let them.
The only thing I'm going to say is play to your strengths on defense. The debacle of last week, and I know we were injured. Don't play zone coverage. It doesn't put our linebackers in great spots, and they were shite. Sorry, we lost last week because our linebackers don't like playing zone coverage, and it showed. Play the way that this defense has been designed to play, and if we get beaten playing that way, fine. I will accept it. But to lose with a whimper last week was frustrating.
And you've got to use your big men this week. If ever there's a game to get Monty back in this rotation properly, this is where you start using him. You know, he will be the one who will go up against Vita Vea, who will go up against those linebackers and will get those extra yards that you want. Get the ball in Laporta's hands, stick him on those linebackers. They're fucking useless when it comes to their coverage during the middle of the field. Get them in his hands. You start using your big weapons against them. Fight fire with fire. Fight power with power. You know, that's what you've got to do here. This is not a game for the playmakers per se. This is for the big boys. And I think that's where we struggled in recent years against them, is sometimes we don't do that. So, you know, again, fight fire with these guys and go for it. You know, it's...
Yeah. Many thanks to milemarker301 for the $10 super chat. Says, Goff will be key. And he will be. He'll have to go up against pressure. He'll have to see it in his face. He's going to have to get the ball out quickly at times. And he's going to have to deliver it on target, on time, and hope those receivers catch a bloody ball.
The coordinators are the key. If this is them, this is their biggest game yet. They've got to show against... They know what's coming from this team. Like, they don't... There's no smokes and whistles and mirrors with what Tampa Bay do. They tell you what they're going to do, and then they do it to you. So you have got to find a way to combat them. And you know what's coming, especially Morton. This is his biggest game. You've got to find a way to circumnavigate this pass rush. So, you know, it's big for both teams. It's big for both coordinators. You know, if they struggle in this, then, you know, it won't be good.
Questions will be asked. Can I trouble you both for a score prediction? Ash first.
27-24 Lions.
Anne?
Yeah, I'm going to stay true to my preseason predictions. I do think the Bucs beat us. I think that I look at the matchups, especially if Decker's not ready to go. I think that defensive line's going to absolutely cause us a hell of a lot of problems, which we might struggle to overcome. I don't know, they're banged up as well, but I didn't like what I saw on Sunday, sorry. And, you know, we depends. We've not talked about having a lean back yet. If a lean's back, that will change a lot of deals. But I think they might narrowly beat us. So I've probably got something like 24-21 to them.
I've got 26-24. I think this will be a last-second game-winning field goal by Jake Bates. I think we will be down facing a blocked punt for a loss, which a lot of teams have faced and failed at this year. But hopefully I think we'll get over the line with it just. We have one question before moving on to the rest of the weekend slate. Attila the Hun Detroit says, how is Ifeatu Melifonwu doing in Miami? Should we have kept in? And then says, please can you say it aloud and not in chat because he's at the dentist, although he's back with the quickest dentist appointment ever. Miami haven't exactly had the greatest season ever. Coach is on the hot seat. They're 1-5. Melifonwu, I have to say, only played 2 reps last week on defense against the Chargers. Otherwise, was in and out of the rotation, was a starter against the Colts in week 1, but otherwise has kind of rotated in and out. 18 against the Jets, 36 against New England, 25 against the Panthers. I think it's safe to say, from my perspective at least, he is who he was for the majority of his Lions career, which is doesn't look entirely healthy. and not being used in the way in which he was very, very good in the one season where he was healthy with us. I don't know if you guys have seen anything from him or agree or disagree.
Yeah, I agree. If anything, he's got slightly worse because at least with us, there was the sort of one calling card was that you could use him, as you say, as that blitzing weapon. They haven't really used him as that. He's only got 2 pressures on the season on admittedly 6 pass rush reps, which doesn't sound that bad, but that was his big calling card for us to have been using that. He's tackling somehow got worse. Like he was always around like 15 to 20% missed tackle rate. It's currently at 26. He's given up every single target that's been thrown his way. He's given up a catch on. He very much is your kind of, he needs to be used like we did as that sort of blitzing safety, maybe a bit of run defending as well. But that's not what Miami's using him for. And he just hasn't been healthy. The fact that on such a bad team, his snaps, as you kind of alluded to, have gone backwards. He's gone from being the starter week 1 to week 2 to 2 snaps this week against the Chargers. They want to get rid of him. I think, unfortunately, he's kind of, he's one of them where he tried it somewhere else and it just hasn't worked out and he'll fall by the wayside. I hope he enjoys the USFL, WXFL, whatever it's called. He can go play for the Orlando Storm and probably get those lovely stats there.
And he's on an atrocious team. What the hell's he meant to do? He's on a team that's quit on its head coach and looks rubbish. I don't really know what you can glean from it there at the minute. I don't think anyone's playing well on that Dolphins team really at all. But he's probably going to go the way of the dodo with the NFL. That was the worst place to go to try and resurrect your career. Might get one more chance somewhere else, but I don't think it'll happen for him there, not with the way that team's going.
Unfortunately, he's going the way of his brother.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the rest of the weekend slate. It starts tonight, Thursday Night Football, Steelers at Bengals, the battle of the 40-year-old quarterbacks, Rodgers against Flacco. Any interest in this game at all?
No, especially since Jacobson won't be playing, so A-Rod won't die. So unfortunately, we're going to have to wait at least another week to see his broken ass finally happen.
No. And I like a lot of players on that Steelers team. I have absolutely zero interest in watching that thing whatsoever. I'm going to probably watch some of the CUSA football instead because that will be better quality.
Is it bad that I have a sneaking suspicion that the Bengals are going to pull out a win here at home? I don't think anyone's really predicting that, but
the Steelers are due a loss. The Steelers are due a loss.
And low-key, I don't think the Steelers are playing that well.
No, they're due a loss. they're not as good as their record suggests.
Yeah. All right. Then let's move on to the Sunday slate. Early one in London. Rams at Jags might be the best game on the slate. Battle of 4-win teams. I think the Rams are favoured by 2.5 points in London. Big news for this game is that the Rams are arriving on Saturday afternoon. So, less than 24 hours before the kick, potentially, or at least they're not going to settle into their hotels until a day before the game, at the very least. The London games are always terrible. We talked about that last week, and you made a very good Twitter post about the fact that, frankly, if this is the product they're going to put on the field, why bring them here at all? Part of me feels like that's jet lag. I just don't think you travel that far that well. I do think the better teams have travelled early. I fancy the Jags.
Oh, yeah, 100%, because the Rams are doing that, which it might work in it might not. The one thing the Jags have going for them, especially in these games, is they do it every year. So they know what they're doing. The players that have been there for a while are used to these kind of games. Okay, it's new coaching staff, but they've kept quite a lot of the logistics side of things as far as I remember. So they'll still have all that sorted. They're used to these games. And yeah, while the Rams on paper look the better team, the Jags just have an edge. And the thing is, that defense as well. As we saw last week, these London games, the international games, usually turn into sloppy defensive affairs. And the Jags right now are such a good defense that it might be that calling card that wins in the game. So I'm going Jags as well, which is I hate it.
It's going to end 5-3 with 2 field goals and a safety. That's how fucking awful it's going to be. Even purists will hate it. I don't get the whole distance thing, guys. Like, you're going from New York to San Francisco. You're going like 3,000 miles. Like, New York to London's probably what, 3.5, 4? It's only like the same as going coast to coast. So coming over here as it's the same time zone differences and shit. So I don't buy the argument that, well, obviously if they're coming late, then fine, but they shouldn't be jet lagged because they should be damn well used to traveling across America at similar distances. But the Rams will probably win. But if either team gets into double figures, it'll shock me. The quality over here is so goddamn bad. I would rather watch an Iowa Hawkeyes game than the games they send over here
Yikes.
willingly. Would you rather? The London games are atrocious. They're such a waste of money to go to because you see nothing.
Yeah, it's one of those where the good games really stand out because there's so few. I do agree with your point about the fact that it's not a big time change. What I would say is it's only a 5-hour change for the Jags. It's a 8-hour change for the Rams, and it's almost double the distance travelled for them.
So the Jags are already over here.
Probably.
They've not had to fly this week, have they?
No.
Yeah, they've already come over, and then the Rams. I know they stayed wherever they played last week. They stayed there to try and minimize the distance, but still, just don't come the day before because you guarantee, especially with staff being how he is. You know his old ass is going to have to lie in for an extra bit longer. He might be rushing to the team coach last minute, and he might forget his cleats or something. It's just a stupid idea.
All right, next up is a game I really just don't want to talk about, but here it is. Saints at Bears. And I mean, the Bears have a winning record for the first time in, I don't know what the end of that sentence is, but they've got back-to-back 25-24 wins, so clearly this is the second coming. I mean, they're going to win the division, I think. But they're playing a Saints team that, despite being 1-5, been really competitive. Like, more competitive than I think anyone imagined, this Saints team. And their quarterback, in Spencer Rattler, has looked like he's going to be a stopgap for the season before moving on and being the number 1 overall pick and getting replaced, to the point where people are legitimately discussing as to whether he can actually win the job long term. And I think that's deserved in the way that he's played. And yes, the Saints are probably going to lose this game, and the Bears are probably going to win, get to 4-2, and even more NFC North wins, which is not exactly great for us. But I'm low-key interested in this game.
You know, when you talk about the Saints, you are the walking epitome of that gif of the guy with the petrol canister trying to gas up a bicycle. You're trying to put oil and gas up something that can't be gassed up. Like that is you with this. They're awful. The Bears are probably going to hang 40 or 50 on them. Like, this will not even be a competitive game, and it pains me to say that, but the Bears seem to have actually found a backbone at the minute. The Saints are that awful. Like, the Bears get to play this shitty schedule and say, oh, look, we're a good team now. Like, I hate it, but that's the nature of finishing 4th all the time. You get damn easy schedules and you get cakewalks like this. Saints are going to provide them no competition whatsoever.
See, I disagree. I have the Saints to win this. I think the Bears will be overconfident because, yes, I predict them to beat the Commanders, but the nature of their win, that's not sustainable, especially since, DeAndre Swift had his one good game and now suddenly he's back on the injury report. They're screwed again. And the Saints, we've seen it in the Battle of the Mid that happened a couple of weeks ago where they got their only win. Sometimes when they just find that little bit, they can just find that one play that works. So it's usually the Rashid going deep. They can get stuff. And the good news is, as far as I know, Shaheed rising on the right-hand side of their formation. That's where Tyreek Stevenson covers. You just need him to turn around and start talking to the fans for one play, and it's an 80-yard touchdown. The Saints, as shit as they are, and yet they're going to be in number 1 pick territory. The Bears will be overconfident in their own backyard, gassed up on their own hype, and they're going to fail because they don't know how to consistently win right now. They know how to get the random win where everything goes their way, like it did on Monday. I don't know if they know how to win consistently.
All right, we're on to Sicko's game of the week. Battle of 1-win teams. And this is rarer than the dodo in the wild. The Cleveland Browns are the favourites for this game. at home against the Miami Dolphins. Sorry, Grandizer. The Browns managed to trade away a quarterback and still were a favourite for a game. The over-under is 37.5 points. And I might take the under. This is a proper game for the sickos, boys.
I mean, the main question in this game is what's going to blow harder, the weather or the local masseuses? Who knows?
Oh, see, I was going to make a win joke as well. I was going to be like, what's going to be higher, the minimum wind speed or the amount of points in this game? But that was even better. I applaud you, sir. That was great. It's hard because the Brown, if it does turn into that wind again, but everyone has to run the ball. I actually trust the Browns more in that situation because of Judkins and their defensive line. But it just feels bad betting on the Browns. But at the same time, it's against the Dolphins, so anything could happen. If the London game isn't the one that ends 5-3, this one could.
Yeah.
You know what? I've been really, really, really mean to the Dolphins this year. So for the sake of Grandizer, I'll predict a Miami win for a change.
Wow.
And my off-piece predictions have been good this year. I predicted the Patriots to beat the Bills, the Jags to beat the Chiefs. So my words have weight this year. The Dolphins will beat the Browns.
No.
You said that against the Patriots and the Bills. You laughed at me. And now look. The Bills are awful. The Patriots broke the Bills.
The Bills broke the Bills. The
Bills look terrible.
The Bills are not a good team. To be frank, though, and we talked about the Bills game last week, they were awful. Like, it's not that the Bills are an unserious football team, which is just funny. Like, given that they have a defensive head coach, and I know they've been injured, and we're going to get onto the Bills game, I think, because they're on a bye, are they? The Bills can't stop the run. The Bills' defense is like what the Packers should have been a few years ago when they were like, oh, we don't care about the run. Apart from this team does care about the run. They just can't do a fucking thing about it. Anyway, we'll get onto that in a bit.
They are on a bye.
Oh, they're on a bye. Well, we're not getting onto that. They're going to stew in the fact that they've just lost 2 straight. Patriots at Titans, 4-2 Patriots. Titans 1-5 having just sacked the head coach. So obviously the Titans are going to win.
It would be the thing. It would be that, wouldn't it? I don't know. Like Vrabel, it's Vrabel coming home in a way. This is the team that discarded him, and they've seen that the guy that chucks him aside for has flamed out. And again, strike by agenda. He's just on a heater this year. And against that Titans secondary, I know we discussed a couple of their pieces in the back end that we might like to trade for. Roger McCreary, Jerry Sneed's been tossed around. Quandre Dixon, and I think I mentioned to Ant, but I've definitely mentioned to me, and you've talked about it, Matt. Quandre Diggs, the third safety, trading for him for a low-cost day 3 pick. Drake May's going to have his way no matter what the running game is going to be like. For some reason, he's just unlocked those mid receivers they have, like Keishon Butte's going off and all that. May's going to have his way in this game, hopefully. Like 350 plus yards, 4 touchdowns. Absolutely masterclass.
With Butte's playing like a top 25 guy at the moment, sorry.
What's funny is that Mike Vrabel, in like 6 games with the Patriots, has managed more quality offensive output than he did in his entire time in Tennessee. Like, his offenses there were garbage, and they were just fronted by Derrick Henry. It was just hand Derrick Henry the football and hope it works. And yet somehow in New England, in half a dozen games, he's done way more with them, with sometimes maybe less talent. It's crazy. Patriots will obviously win this one, I believe. They look a lot better this year, and the Titans are just not a good football team. But yeah, Mike Vrabel suddenly become an offensive specialist out of nowhere because, yeah, his Tennessee teams were dire. Made me want to bleach my eyes every time I watch them play.
This is the best quarterback he's ever had. I'm sorry, comparing someone like Ryan Tannehill to him is just a joke.
That is true. That is true.
You saw Ryan Tannehill, and you have a look at what happened in his career after it all went to shit. Of course you're going to give Derrick Henry the ball. I mean, it made Tannehill look good because they were really putting nothing on him, and they really needed to.
Yeah, it was Henry and it was AJ Brown.
Yeah,
because
he's only worth the first AJ Brown. He's getting traded for a third AJ Brown. But anyway, I know that was fake. It was so fake. But anyway, let's move on to the next one. Raiders 2-4 at the Chiefs 3-3. Kansas City. I think this is one of the biggest spreads I've seen for a while. Although we have had some big spreads this year. 12.5-point favourites at home. Obviously, the Chiefs look like an incredible team at the moment. They're 3-3. I think they're number 1 in some people's power rankings, despite that.
Yeah.
They are flying, and they are remarkably healthy against the Raiders team who, I mean, frankly, I don't know if they know which side of the field they're attacking sometimes.
True. But yeah, the only reason the Chiefs are number 1 in a little bit of some people's power rankings is because they can legally play with 12 men on the field, you know.
Yeah.
But that obviously does joking. I can see why people have them. And as much as I would love for the Raiders just to come in and be, you know, that sort of shitty little team that always comes in and spoils like playoff contenders, seasons and all that, they're just a one-person team at this point, especially with Bowers still injured. They're just whatever Gianti can get them on offense. And then defense, Mad Max trying his damn hardest to get some pass rush. The Chiefs will just be able to handle that. You saw what this did to us. They had the perfect game plan for us, and we've got miles more talent than the Raiders, even when we banked up on the secondary. So God knows what they're going to do to the Raiders. You know, this week they might actually not have to pay off the refs to get over the win.
Prediction: Max Crosby gets ejected because he gets so fucking angry with the refs for not calling stuff on him.
And then Lewis Riddick can do a little minute and a half video about Max Crosby's rough day, trying to show all the plays where he gets beaten and not actually discussing the thing that Brian Branch was talking about.
No, he will. I think they're going to wind up. They're going to wind up Max, and Max is already in a wound up mood at the minute. But the Raiders have what? The Raiders have lost like 9 of the last 10 against the Chiefs. They are just an unserious, uncompetitive team when it comes to playing Kansas. So unless Chante goes for 200 rushing yards, I'm not interested in this. I only have fantasy connotations for this one, but I don't think the Raiders will win.
While they have lost a lot of the games to the Chiefs, it's always a very close game. The Raiders make it a close game.
How do the Raiders screw it up? That might be the best question.
That's a much better question.
What do the Raiders do to screw it up? I feel like a Geno Smith. Oh, Ash might say it here, but a pick 6.
I was going to go the other one. I was thinking fumble on a sack taken back for us. A fix 6 by Nardi. The worst defensive tackle is going to get a fix 6.
Long snapper throws the ball into Geno Smith's helmet and it just bounces into the arms of Chris Jones.
The Kyler Murray.
Yeah,
so
something like that.
Of the last 7 games these teams have played, only 2 of them have ended up in not 1-score games. For the Chiefs, their 2 last victories were by 2 points and 7 points, and then the one 7 games ago was a 1-point victory. And in that is a 6-point Raiders win. So I think it's going to be a close game, despite all of the evidence to the contrary. I still think the Chiefs will win, but I will keep an eye on this game just because there's a little part of me that thinks that the Raiders can win it, just to be spoiler. Next up is the Eagles at the Vikings. Eagles 4-2 on a 2-game slide against the Vikings 3-2 in Minneapolis. As much as it has implications for the Lions, this game, in terms of in division, in conference, might be one of the games I'm less looking forward to this slate. It's, I don't know, an Eagles team that's just decided it doesn't want to be able to play football to the point where even some of their own team is retiring mid-season against the Vikings team that I think is fairly unserious at quarterback, and otherwise, you know, is McCarthy back? I think he said
he's not practiced today, and Wentz is a full practice.
And otherwise, they should be friskier than they are, but they're 3-2, facing the prospect of going 3-3 and behind the Bears.
Yeah, it's a sickos game. It's 2 bad offenses and 2 pretty good defenses going at each other. So that's what I'm going to have. I've picked the Eagles to win because that means it's going to rely on the ground game, and Saquon Barkley is miles better than Jordan Mason. So
I just hope I just hope Philly kill them. I hate the Vikings with everything. I don't care whether it's ramifications for the NFC. I want the rest of the NFC North to suffer every single week. So please let Philly do it. Let this be the game where Philly get everything right and absolutely drop a hammer on those frauds. Because we play them next after the bye, and I want them hurting badly.
Next up, 3-3 Panthers at the winless Jets in East Rutherford. Even though I really quite like the Panthers, maybe as even my second team in the NFC, I really hope this can be Aaron Glenn's first win. I want him to be a success without actually doing too well, because I'm not a massive fan of the Jets in particular. I do think this is a winnable game at home. I know the Jets look like an unserious team. It's really bad for the moment. Panthers are 1.5 point favourites away, which should say a lot about this Jets team. The way the Panthers are playing right now, I think it's hard to see anything other than a Panthers victory, despite me saying I think the Jets have a shot. What do you think?
I want the Panthers to drop 50 on them. I want Aaron Glenn to be a broken man. Completely and utterly broken, because that's the only way you rebuild yourself and that shitty organization. They need to go winless, give Aaron a number 1 overall pick to work with so that he can seriously start rebuilding that franchise and go from there. A win here for the Jets does absolutely nothing for them apart from screw up their draft picks. Start that thing off from scratch. The team is unserious. They don't look bothered. Start selling off your assets to the deadline. We'll take some of them if you want to send them our way. But no, Aaron Glenn is not close to... I don't want his suffering to end yet. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Suffering makes a guy. A win here would be a token win and nothing more. Go the way Dan did. Suffer a lot.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it in such strong words, because I do like Aaron. I don't want him to, suffer completely, but yeah, I want the Panthers to win, mostly because I do really like the Panthers, and I want Tet to, have a really good day. If I want anyone to suffer on the Jets, it's Sauce Gardner. I just want Tet to have his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then go home with his girl and, do that while he's watching. Just absolutely ruin him. And then, yeah, I want the Jets still to lose, because, yeah, that means one step closer to having JJ2 and to having those two on this team. Jesus Christ, you guys all hate me. But, yeah, Carolina are one of those risky teams that have just turned it around this year. Bryce Young, finally, was looking like a good QB. Dowdle, what a breakout he is. And then Tet, just, yes, more of that, please.
Next up, Giants at Broncos. 2-win Giants, but coming off a big one against the Broncos, 4-2, who've been iffy to start the season, but have come on strong down the stretch. Broncos at home, 7.5 point favourites. This is a game I'm excited for, just because Dart and Scat make this interesting on the Giants side, and Nix and Sutton and Benito and everything that the Broncos have. This is an extremely watchable game for me.
Yeah, I agree. If two of those kind of weird QBs in college that seemingly have made it work in the NFL, obviously like Nix has looked good last season, is starting to get back there this season. Jackson Dart might be saving that franchise right now. And obviously we all know about Scatteroo. But yeah, I actually really like this. And while I still have the Broncos to win it, because overall their talent is better, this is one of those that I'll be watching out the corner of my eye, and it'll probably be close in a lot of places we'll have it, because, yeah, that Giants team is just frisky as hell.
And
yeah, I want the Broncos to win. I like the Broncos. I think they're built well. They've been a bit slow this year, but yeah, I like the Giants as well, but I think the Broncos, just personal preference for me there.
In a game of surprises, potentially, the Colts at 5-1 and co-leaders of the league travelled to the LA Chargers, who are massively banged up but still somehow have 4 wins on the board. And for some reason, the Chargers are favourites at home here. I don't understand, but I'm willing to accept it. Quentin Johnson looks like a real boy, for once. Herbert doing Herbert things, sublime to awful sometimes. Daniel Jones No, sorry, I'm not doing it. I'm still
It's
not doing it.
it's Indianapolis
Indiana
Jones to you.
Jones.
It's
Not
Indianapolis Jones to you.
not doing it. Jonathan Taylor is a
Well,
very
I
good player,
believe
though.
us two do. So democracy, 2-1, you lose.
Hmm.
So it's happening whether you like it or not.
Well, you can do it. I'm not stopping you doing it. I'm just saying I'm not doing Daniel Jones being this guy who is actually a good player. I just don't believe it.
He's going to win again.
I bet on the Colts. I think they
Oh,
will
fuck
win
off.
again. But they're still not going to convince me he's a good player. Who have the Colts actually played and beaten who are any good? They've beaten the Dolphins by 25, game 1. They beat the Broncos by 1. The Titans by 21. They lost to the Rams fairly handily by 7. Beat the Raiders, beat the brakes off the Raiders, and then beat a very wounded Cardinals team that didn't have a starting quarterback. They have beaten one good team. And calling the Broncos a good team, yeah, okay, fine. But it's a 1-point win. Otherwise, they've had literally the cakiest of cakewalk schedules. I don't think that's unfair. They have space to have wins, and I think they've looked good doing their wins, but they haven't faced any serious teams.
Can only beat what's in front of you, and honestly, the way they've done it, that is.
But they didn't beat the Rams, who were. I don't think. I'm not big on the Rams.
But the Bills didn't beat the Patriots.
Yeah, but the Bills aren't a good team. You know that hurts me to say, but the Bills aren't a good team.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they've got a cakewalk. They've had a cakewalk schedule. They probably will fall down. But right now, the Chargers aren't a good team either. They're missing both their tackles. They have no run game now because both their good running backs are out, and they're starting Kamani Vidal, who is good, but is he our running back one? No. The other running back is Hassan Haskins, who I really liked in a Sione Varkey role of he maybe takes you 5 snaps a game in like power situations, but he's mostly a special teamer. Yeah, Quentin Johnson's good when he gets the ball, but is Herbert able to get it to him when he's going to have pass rush in his face? Because as much as Indianapolis still need work, they've actually got a good stable of pass rushers. They've got Latu, they drafted last year, who's good. They've obviously got Quitty Pay, who, while he hasn't lived up to his Michigan hype, he's still a good edge too. They've got enough there. And if Aero, as much as he didn't do well with the Bengals, I think that he's now come there and he's made that defense in his image, and he's doing enough to keep him in these games where Jones can be mid and just basically what we've just said earlier with the Titans, have that game plan on offense where he does enough off play action, but for the most part, you just hand it off to Jonathan Taylor and he does the work. I mean, that can work against his Chargers team.
I mean, Jordan Love can be mid and win lots of games, so why can't Daniel Jones as well? So, for the record, from a purely selfish point of view, I'm going for the Chargers. For me, the Chargers are ranked second on my list of teams from California that I'm rooting hardest for this weekend. So, they're right up there.
Next up, the Commanders at the Cowboys. Commanders 3-3, Cowboys 2-3-1. The Commanders are 2.5-point favourites. The matchup predictor has this a dead heat 50-50. Daniels is back. Bill Krosky-Merritt looks like a real strong player back there, but the Commanders' defense is pretty woeful at times. Cowboys, I mean, Prescott's playing well. Javonte Williams looks like a good player. Pickens is hurdling his way to having a good season. And James Houston still leads the team in sacks. So I think this is a really close game, but I think the Cowboys are going to win. As much as I would hate that, I really think the Cowboys are going to do this.
Nah, the Commanders just signed Trailer Burke, so then by $1 million.
You know what? I'm gaining. I must say that the petty side of me is really relishing the Commanders fans' pain this year when they realise they're not as good as they think they are. And after last year, I think I'm still a little salty and I'm enjoying watching them lose. Even the Bears beating them brought me some joy, and I never take joy in the Bears winning football games. So I kind of want the Cowboys to absolutely twonk them here because we've got them soon. And I want them to feel really, really miserable when we play them. And I want them to feel downright depressed when we're done with them. So, yeah, Salty Me's coming out here. Cowboys by 30. That'll do me.
Yeah, the Cowboys are going to win. As much as I joke that they've just signed Burks, which they have done, McLaurin hasn't come back to practice yet, so they don't really have a. They've got Debo, but he's a gadgety player. Can he be their associate one? I don't know. And yeah, the Cowboys, they've kind of found an identity in offense now that might be enough to win them the game. Like defense is pretty 50-50, so I trust the Cowboys offense more, which is really weird to say when this time last year that would be heresy.
All right, next one is maybe the most interesting game in the slate apart from the London game. And I say the London game is interesting, but only because of who's playing and not where they're playing, which makes it kind of uninteresting. The Packers at the Cardinals. 3 1-1 Packers against the 2-4 Cardinals. The Cardinals started 2-0, and they have gone 0-4 in the last 4. They have lost those 4 games by 9 points total. And the first 3 all came on last-second field goals. So the Cardinals are on like the narrowest of 4-game slides against a Packers team who haven't won away from home yet this season. Looks like Kyler Murray may not be able to go, which means it's going to be another Jacoby Brissett game. Packers are 6.5-point favourites. I kind of like Arizona. I probably part of that is that I'm biased and really badly want the Packers to lose. But I don't know. I don't think the Packers are a good team. And I think that low-key, the Cardinals have been good, apart from the fourth quarter, all season.
Wow, you've spent all year trashing the Cardinals, so you must really hate the Packers.
Have I?
Really hate them. Yes, you have. You've been very uncomplimentary towards the Arizona Cardinals, so... Wow, that's hate even I couldn't muster. Jesus.
Nothing to say, Ash? That's the first.
No, I was just letting and make the very good point that for someone who, when I predicted the Cardinals to win their division, which in hindsight was a bad pick, but still at least had a good reason. You ripped into me and like said, they're consistently shit. For you to,
I believe the term number 1 pick was thrown around in there as well.
Yeah,
I don't think I said that.
No, you did. You said they could be bad enough to go and get the number 1 overall pick. So, yeah, when the Saints exist, when the Dolphins exist, when the Browns exist.
I think if I said that, I probably gave the qualifier of if Kyler Murray barely plays, which, to my credit, he was out last week and he might be out this week. And I only laughed at you, Ash, because I think the other 3 teams in the division are better than them. So I thought them winning the division was unlikely.
Yeah, and I had solid reason. As I said they could be better, but right at that point, I had less question about the Cardinals because this was when Stafford had his back issues, and we didn't know that Sam Darnold was actually going to continue being Viking Sam Darnold rather than Jets Sam Darnold. And the 49ers, well, they've lost everyone in injury, so at least I was right about that. But actually getting back to them, I don't know. Like, as much as I love the Cardinals to win this because fuck the Packers, they've just got more there. Like, if it just comes down to handing the ball off to Jacobs, they'll probably win the game, which sucks. Like, it's like what I said earlier with the Chargers. The Cardinals have lost both their running backs, and now down there, starting quarterbacks have got Brissett there. They don't have a run game to protect him, so it's for him force feeding the ball to Trey McBride, which we saw what happened with that because they'll just stick McKinney on him like they stuck McKinney on Laporta. The Packers, unfortunately, just have more talent there, so they'll win the game. Hopefully, the Cardinals keep it fucking close because that'll help in the end of the season, point differential and that. But yeah, as much as I love the Cardinals and want them to win, I don't know if they can.
All right, Sunday Night Football. Falcons at 49ers. Falcons 3-2 off a very impressive victory against the 49ers, 4-2 off a tough loss against Tampa Bay. Is Mac Jones going to be the quarterback again? We don't know. I think Brock is practicing this week, but in a limited fashion. I'm saying that without actually knowing. Penix looks a bit better. Bijan looks a lot better. Drake London's really come on in the last year and a half or so. He's one of the better receivers in the league right now. McCaffrey is on the field and leads the team in receiving and rushing, but I don't think he's looked remarkable. 49ers are favoured by 3.5 at home. Sorry, 2.5. Beg your pardon. It's coming from 3.5 to 2.5. What do you think?
Well, I'm just looking at the injury report. Purdy is limited both days.
There we go.
Jones is upgraded to full participation, so have to be limited yesterday. But I'm just looking at the injury report. It hasn't missed updated for the Falcons, but going back to what I said a minute ago, Jesus Christ, it's long. And that's just even about the QBs like Ronaldo Green, who, yes, I'm taking the FSU card again. When they're starting corners outside, limited participation. Juwan Jennings, limited participation. Yuto Gross-Matos has not practiced both days. George Kittle's finally returned to practice, limited participation. Pearsall did not participate. Pooney, upgraded from limited, did not yesterday to limited today. Obviously, Warner's out. They haven't IR'd him yet for some reason, which is stupid, but he's not going to be playing. Markel Williams is carrying an injury. Trent Williams is has come back after having Parcel yesterday. The 49ers are beaten up, and that Falcons defense is real. It is. And Penix, when he's put in the right situation, can do enough. And I don't know if the Niners have enough on offense to, consistently move the ball to maybe get the field goals, whatever. Then Falcons might only need a good couple of drives to put 21, 24 points on the board. And I don't know if the Niners can match that right now, just because they don't have any weapons. And yet both QBs they could be starting are banked up.
So yeah, I'm definitely going Falcons.
I mean, they've got split personality disorder. Which side's coming? The one that got absolutely, rollocked by the Panthers, or the one that goes out and beats the Bills? I don't know until I know which half of them's coming out. They're either trash or they're elite, and there's no in between with it. So you kind of feel like a massive win against the Bills, they're going to follow it up with an absolute dud. So on that basis alone, I would say the 49ers are going to win this one. But if the good side of the Falcons comes out, then they'll absolutely wipe the floor with them. But, I'm just going on a hunch that they'll follow up a great game with a bad game because that's who they are this year.
All right, and then a Monday Night Football double header, which I didn't actually realise, if I'm honest. At midnight for us is the Bucs-Lions game, and it's followed at 3 a.m., 10 p.m. Eastern, by Texans-Seahawks. 2-3 Texans at the 4-2 Seahawks. Seahawks are flying. And I think deservedly so. I think it's an absolute credit to them how they've played this season. Smith and Jigba isn't just a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL right now. He might be top 3. I think he's incredible. And Darnold should be getting all the love that, frankly, the Colt twat is getting. Ken Walker's playing great. Byron Murphy's playing fantastic. The Texans are frisky, but at 2-3, they can't go too many more in the hole. And away against the Seahawks team, it's a big ask on the biggest stage.
I mean, the Seahawks defense versus the offensive line. Need I say more?
You can say more if you want.
True. Again, Seahawks use that sort of Baltimore Ravens scheme. They blitz a lot, and I don't know if their Texans offensive line can handle that. Like, it's going to be it might be close. Like, that Texans defense will show up. It will limit the Seahawks offense a bit, but the difference between the Texans offense and the Seahawks defense compared to the other way around is faster. So I can see the Seahawks winning this. It might only be by one score, but on those key plays, McDonald's are just gonna have the right play to call just to end the drive. Stroud will probably do his best, but there's only so much he can do when he's going to be blitzed to high heaven.
I don't know, man. Texans have the best scoring defense in the league, and we know what Darnold's like when he comes up against a good defense. He's fucking useless. I think he's going to throw a ton of picks to these guys. I think the Texans will upset them. They get a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and they don't give up a lot of points. And Sam Darnold traditionally struggles against teams like that. So call the Texans my upset for this week. I think they'll go and beat the Seahawks on their own patch. They don't have Pete Carroll chewing in the ear of the refs anymore. That aura's gone. If he was still there, I'd pick the Seahawks, but they don't have that anymore.
The Texans are such a weird team. They lost their first 3 games, losing by 5 to the Rams, 1 to Tampa Bay, and 7 to Jacksonville, and then beat Tennessee 26-0 and Baltimore 44-10. So the 2 teams they've beaten are both terrible teams. Like Baltimore are not a serious team right now. Tennessee are obviously terrible. But the 3 losses they've had are so narrow, and against Jacksonville, Tampa Bay, and the Rams are all plus 500 teams. Pretty good. Unfraudulent. How contendery are they? Probably not very, but still good teams. So they've had really narrow losses against good teams, and they've blown away terrible teams. So how good are they? I have no idea the answer to that question, because I believe in the quarterback, and I believe in the defense, but that's it. I don't know. I'm going Seahawks, but never mind. Anyway, any further thoughts you have on the Lions game or on the rest of the slate before we head into the bye? Is there anything you want to see from the Lions otherwise? And then, yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Just to go back to what I said, I know we're getting to rehashing the Chiefs game. What Lewis Riddick and ESPN have done to Branch today with the video they've put out is disgusting. Basically making fun of him.
The thought of Aleem playing again arouses me.
And with that, we are going to close. Clip it up, everybody. Yeah, college football podcast, Sam. We briefly referenced it earlier on in the show, but what did you talk about yesterday?
Indiana's tremendous win over Oregon. We did our half-season mock drafts, and it's a big week in college football. The Holy War is on this weekend, and I will be streaming that, so come join. Utah, BYU, they hate each other. They hate each other more than I hate the Bears, which is a lot. So it's going to be good fun. The Jules Shillelagh's on. It's going to be all sorts of good stuff. But yeah, yesterday was praising Indiana a lot and doing our half-season mock drafts.
When is Holy War?
Saturday night, 1 a.m. for us. 8 a.m. in America. 8 p.m. in America. They're both ranked for the first time in 16 years, and they both have a ton of NFL draft talent on their teams. So if you like your draft stuff, that's one of the games to watch this week, especially on Utah's side. Cool.
Next show on the main podcast is going to be Monday Night Football Live Watch Along. So we will be here probably quarter to midnight UK time, quarter to 7 Eastern time. So come catch us for that, giving our alternative commentary to the game. You don't have to listen to... Well, actually, I really like Monday Night Football commentary, so I won't besmirch that too much. And then we'll be live for the Bucks review on Tuesday night, probably Tuesday night. And then the College Football Podcast will be back, having a look back at Week 8 on the Wednesday or sometime around then. Just remains for me to thank my co-hosts, Anthony Fitzpatrick, Ashley Soden, and to all of you for listening. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you for the game on Monday night. Let's go Lions, one pride.
One pride.
One pride.
Recording stopped.